Okay, so I think we should get started. Okay, so far we have just created a dictionary.py file which has this function called getMeaning. When you pass a word, it will return you the part of speech as well as the meaning of the word. Uh, Great. So second part is actually building a Flask web app. So as everything that we did so far, I'll I'll say Flask Python and okay. So this is the official website of Python. So if you go here, we'll see a minimal application. So this is all the code that you need for installation. Again, we have already created the virtual environment. This is the line that we'll copy, paste here, to install Flask. At the time it's working, we'll simply copy this code and here I'll create a new file. I'll say app.py. Here I'll paste it and okay. This is how you run a Flask app. This is basically how you run a Flask app. So let me first show you the app and then I'll explain you how it's working. So I'll say Python and app.py. So as you can see, serving Flask app and the app name is app itself. I can change it to any other thing and it will be reflected here. Now it's giving us a warning that this is a development environment and don't use it in production. Debug mode is on, and then this is the like URL where it's serving it for now. So I'll control click on it. Okay, this is the page. So as you can see here, hello world. Okay. So it's a very simple application. All it does is somebody when they visit the slash URL, which is the home or root URL, then it will say hello world. This is all it's doing. So let's take a minute to understand how Flask works. So you first import the Flask class from Flask module and then you create a class. You create an app object from this class. With this app object, you basically specify that this is the route. So route. So you can say when somebody visits this route, just execute this method. So when we are saying 127.0.0.1, then port 5000 and then slash, this is as good as not using slash. This is the root address or the base URL. So whenever somebody visits this URL, simply execute the function and the function will return a string called hello world. This is all it's doing. So let's create another route and this will be slash home. So now I can say def execute home function. The home function will return this is the home page. So I'll run this app again. This app again, and then if I say dot slash home, you can see this is the home page. So for this URL, it's returning home. And if I remove this thing and I press enter, it will simply return hello world. So Flask is actually a micro framework for web development in Python. So by micro, it means it is meant, it is actually a small framework, and then it has a lot of extensions, and you can use those extensions to scale it for as per your use case or as per your needs. Okay. So this is how easy it is to get started with Flask. All you have to do is that you create an app from Flask class, and then you just say app.route. So whenever somebody visits this route, execute this function. This is all it's saying. Whenever somebody visits this route, execute this function. Okay. So other nitty-gritty details of it, like app.run, debug equal to true, all these things are not very important, and or you should not worry about them if you are just starting with Flask. Okay. So great. Like we at least got a basic Flask app running. Next thing that we'll do is we need to, like, if you are aware of some basic web development, you might know that you cannot always pass a string here. Like, say I want to make a complete big page with a lot of div tag and other stuff. I cannot write that complete string here. One way of doing this would be to save it in a string and then pass the string, but that is a such a normal operation, and every web framework should allow a way so that you can render or serve HTML pages. Okay, because even if you open a normal website, say I'll open a normal website, okay, google.com. If you look at the source code, this is all the code that is there to just display this simple function. Okay, so you will have to pass this complete thing as a string to get it to show this page, and that is a lot of text. Okay, so you never do this. You basically save that text into a HTML file and then you serve that HTML file. So let's see how we can serve Flask serve HTML files. So we'll go read some docs to understand how do we serve HTML files. Okay, so how to serve static HTML. So okay, there's this function called render template which can do this for you. So I'll just okay, let's read some other. Okay, let's try reading this. So yeah, you can pass HTML, but that is not very efficient way because this is how you will end up doing it. So another way is to file like serve HTML pages. To do that, first we'll have to create a HTML page. Say we'll use the same name, and then this is how it should be structured. Create a templates directory, and inside that templates directory create index.html file. So this is how it will look. Your app is running here, and like a sibling folder would be templates, and inside that you will have index.html, and then you will simply say from Flask import render template, and you will say render template and pass that. So okay, looks pretty easy and straightforward. So I'll minimize this thing. First thing what I'll do is from here I'll import render template. Then instead of passing this, I'll say render template, and I'll say render index.html. I'll remove this for now. So this is what we are doing. Now to actually have index.html, first we'll have to create a folder called templates and then index.html. So we have this is our app. Then sibling folder is templates, and inside that we have HTML index.html. So okay, we have done this. Let's copy this code and paste it here, and our title will be dictionary app, and here let's see if it's working. I'll save this thing. So when you keep your server in debug mode, it will automatically restart. So it will say detected changes in this file app.py, reloading. It will automatically reload the server, so you don't have to start it over and over again. So now let's try to run the home page, and now it's able to access that index.html file. Okay, so we did this part right. Render template. Now we can pass any HTML file, and also the location is correct. So now if I have multiple files, I can create files here, and I can say home.html, I can say login.html, signup.html on all these different pages. Okay, so great. Let's take a few minutes and first settle everything for at least our page. Okay, the template that we'll be using. So I'm not a CSS ninja, so I oftentimes use Bootstrap to get started. So I'll say Bootstrap and then enter Bootstrap. You can simply say get started, and this is the starter template. So I'll copy this thing. I'll come here, select everything, and paste it. Now this is required meta tag. This is Bootstrap CSS. The title will be dictionary app. So title is something that you see here at the top. This is your title. So I'll say dictionary app, then here h1 hello world, and then optional JavaScript, choose one of the two. So this is option 1 and option 2. So I'll simply remove this thing because it's all optional, and now when we don't have two options, I can remove this and I can make this comment shorter. Okay, so this is our basic code. Let's try to refresh it. Okay. So it's working. So as you can see, font has changed, and some other things. Also, you'll get a lot of pre-built CSS classes, which is very handy while developing web pages. Okay, so great. Instead of, so I'll quickly write some code to make it look thoda sa pretty. I'm not a ninja, so like don't expect like extremely good looking page. Some basic formatting like center and other stuff. So inside body, I'll simply say container dot 5, and inside this, so I have created a basic container. Then I'll say I want a row. Inside row, I'll say I want a column of with 3, and then I'll copy it twice, and so the total sum of all the columns should be always 12. So inside a row, all the columns should add up to 12. So 6 plus 6, I'm left with 6. So this comes under Bootstrap grids. Yeah. So this is grid for you. So this is 3, this is 3, and this is 3, all of equal lengths. Now I'm trying to do something of this sort, where your middle column will be much wider and other two columns on the side will be smaller in size. So yeah, this is basically the grid structure. So this is 4 equal columns. Okay. So I'll move this inside. So we have this thing. Let's save it and have a look at it. So this is how it looks. I'll say mm, line text line enter. Mm, okay. Content center. So I'll simply use a class to okay, fine. We'll have to figure it out later. But so here I'll say dictionary app, and once we have this thing in place, I'll create another row, and inside this will okay. For now, we don't need a row. I'll fine. Okay, just a second. Mm, align text center bootstrap. Okay, so dot text center. This is the class name. So we'll come here and okay. So now, first thing that we have to learn is how we can display something in the front end. So this is our HTML page. This is how our app looks so far, and all we are doing is asking it to render HTML index.html page, and index.html page is nothing but Bootstrap template, and then we have just updated the title and created some div to organize it. Okay, so okay, I'll Google send data to template Flask Python. So a lot of people use Google and other search engine as if they are talking to other person. They'll use proper punctuation, grammar, and all those different things. But Google and like all other search engine, they don't. They automatically remove all the stop words. They remove all the punctuations and other things. So all they look after is keywords. So you just have to make sure in your search query you have all those keywords mentioned. You don't have to frame it in form of a proper English sentence because computers don't understand it anyways. Okay, so don't waste a lot of time writing a proper English sentence. Just make sure you have all the keywords like Flask, Python, template, send data, and stuff. Okay, so like this is one trick that I often see people struggle with. So okay, sending form data, we don't want to send data to Flask in Flask to another page. Except user input, how can we pass data from Flask to a? Okay, how to send data from Flask to HTML template. So okay, now if you look at this thing along with render template, it's passing a variable called bot, and this bot variable is basically a random choice. Okay, and in the front end all you have to do is make a placeholder for it. So let's see it in action. So for everything, now I already know most of these things, but I'm still searching and showing it to you so that you can go and explore. Now, whenever you read Stack Overflow code or any other code, just focus on the part which is important to you. Okay, how we are passing information to the HTML page. So we'll be like, we can only pass information from here because this is path of the file or name of the file. So we cannot do anything with it. We have to either pass it here or we'll have to do something else before. So this is normal Python list. This is another list. This is another list, another list, another list. Then we are basically making request.form. This is giving us human one, and if human one if human one in greeting, then do this. Okay? So always focus on the part of information that is required. Don't get carried away with all this complex code that is there. So let's see it in action. If you want to pass any data to the front end, this is what you do. You say data is equal to, I'll say word is equal to, and I'll pass the word. So word will be egoist. This is my word. What I'll do is I'll say word is equal to word. Now this word on the right hand side refers to this Python variable, and this will be used in index.html. So I can simply say keyword. I'll use keyword here to highlight the difference. Now under dictionary app, I'll create a paragraph where I'll use two curly braces, and here I'll say keyword. So I'm using the keyword because I used keyword here. Okay, so I'll save it, and let's see it in action. So you can see the word that I passed in the front end, it's available here. So this is how it works. All you are saying is, please render this page, and this is some additional information that you should carry. Now when this render template function reads this file from top to bottom, and as soon as it encounters these pairs of curly braces, it will understand that this is a placeholder for something that will be passed to me. So it will go and check the dictionary. Do I have this keyword? If the keyword is there, then this complete thing will be replaced by its value. Okay, so these are nothing but placeholders for information that will be passed later. And how do you pass that information? Just by passing these things as arguments. Okay, so this is how you send your data to the front end. I'll update this as well. Say for example, you have this word, you can say POS is equal to noun, you can say meaning is equal to self-centered. Now you can pass all this information here. POS is equal to POS and meaning is equal to meaning. I have passed all these three values. Now I have to create placeholders for them. So instead of word, I'll say POS, and here instead of word, I'll say meaning. Let's save everything and refresh the page. So now you can see all the three values are available here. Okay, so instead of calling print, all we are doing is we are passing these values here, and then we are creating placeholders for them in the front page. Now this is a like pretty long way of writing it. So what I'll do is I'll say data, and again I'll say data. So my data is basically a empty dictionary, and instead of passing all these different parameters separately, I'll simply say data is equal to data, and here instead of word, I'll say data.word, and so on. Okay. So now whatever data you want to pass, create a new key, and here just access it by calling data dot and the key. So we can write it even like, okay. So this will be my key, and this will be my value. POS. So now this is much more concise way of writing the same thing. So everyone understood this part. How do you send data to the front end?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we already have this function, right? Let's start putting these things together. We already have this function called get meanings. So come here, I'll say from dictionary import get meaning, and now I'll say जो भी मेरा word है, so egoist, and then I'll get POS in return, I'll get meaning in return, and I'll just call get meaning, and I'll pass the word here. Because my get meaning function takes a word and it will automatically go request the page, scrape part of speech and its meaning. Okay, it will return these two things. So this is done. Now all I have to do here is word. Instead of this I have to say POS, and instead of this I have to say meaning, the meaning which is returned from get meaning function. Okay, so let's try to see the actual meaning of egoist. So it's taking time. Okay, so egoist, it's a noun, and egotist disapprove, and egotist disapproving. Okay, so this is the meaning that it has scraped from CambridgeDictionary.com. So okay, not the point of this discussion or this session, the meanings of the words, but okay, great. So now all we need to do is learn how we can take this word from the front end. So we know the output part. Instead of standard output, we are displaying the things in the front end. So that part is taken care of. Now only thing that we have to learn is how do we take this thing as an input. Okay. So great. Let's bootstrap parts. Let's make it somewhat pretty so we can add more elements to it. So I want a card which is colored, and okay, so these are colored cards, and this is the card that I'm looking for. So I want the blue card, so I'll go here and copy this div. Okay, this is the div for the card. So I'll come here in my HTML, and instead of printing them in paragraphs, I'll paste that div. Now you can see instead of, okay, so I don't, okay, I need the header, I don't need the title. Let's look at it. So I don't want this part, I want this part. So this part is there because of title, as you can see, dark art title. So I'll remove the title thing and I'll keep the header thing. Here in header I want to print data dot word, and then I'll, data dot word, After that, to use two brackets, and inside the brackets again I'll say data.pos, which is part of speech. So anything within this will be replaced. Okay, and then here in card text, I'll simply say data.meaning. Let's refresh our page, see if it's looking any better. Okay, so this is how it's looking now. Let's make it center aligned. So we'll copy this thing and let's paste it here. Let's see if it's okay. So this is the card for us. Now another thing we can do is, so we can remove this max width thing, so it will span throughout, so it will look more even, and we can add a break statement. We are okay, we can add a break statement so that we have some space between this. Okay. So great, we are showing our text in a card. Is there something? Hmm, okay, we don't want blue color. Okay, now it's better. Great. Let's come back to Bootstrap and search for forms, because that are the only way to, not the only way, but the primary way of taking input from the user. So this is how a form looks, and this is the code for the form. So Bootstrap is amazing. You should like surely give it a try. And people like who are not very good at design, using Bootstrap will like allow you to like get a lot of good design features out of the box. So like, try using them. So I'll simply come here and I'm looking for a particular type of form which will have, okay, so I want a form like this where we have a button on the right and we can like directly use it. Okay, so I'll copy this thing. Is there some particular name for it? Custom file input. Okay, browse anything. This is the reason why I hate CSS and like front end design. You can spend the complete day looking for a perfect design like that suits. So there was it. Fine. So I'll try to use it. So just after dictionary app, I'll try to add this form, and instead of this, it will be text class ID. I don't need it. Class will have to see. mm, form, and method will be post. So I'll take these elements and put them inside this form. Okay. So this is my form. It will have mm, bootstrap forms with where exactly was it? Checkbox, label, sign up. Okay. Submit reference, password disabled, anchor validation. Mm, fine. Just give me a minute. I'll custom file label. Okay. Any where is it? Layout form groups. Okay. Anything will work. Just come here, replace this thing with I'll replace it with this. This is my form group. Then we have a label, and we don't need the second label. Now this will be instead of example label. Okay, so instead of this, I'll simply use search. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so we have this button. Let's keep it inside a div so that class equal to container, so that we can have some spacing between these two things. Oh, it's not working, so I'll simply add a break. So I'm not a CSS ninja, so like this is the reason why it's taking so much time. Okay, much better. Now we need to add a button. So we'll come here in forms and we'll see if we can find a form with a button. So this is the button. So we'll copy this thing and I'll paste it here. Type will be submit. Okay, and here it will be search. Okay, so okay, much better. So we have our form ready to take the input. Now, when working with forms, one important method is action. Another important method is again called method. Okay. So action is basically the place where you say, after submitting the form, this is where I should be. This is where I should take that data, the data that we have collected from the form. We should take it there. Okay. So okay. So we have to specify our route here, the path here, and then it will work. Okay. So for now, we can say hello, and yes, it will give us question mark. It doesn't know what to do with it. So nothing will happen, but we have at least created a page. Okay. Yeah. So click. This is how it will work. Method not allowed. So let's go and search how we can. So I'll close all this stuff. We'll go and search collect form data, task Python. So let's see if we can find a good example. Stack Overflow. Okay, so this is your form. This is how it looks. You have specified the action or the route, and then here you create that method /result, and then you say the method could be get or post, and then if you say method is equal to post, then request.form ke andar you will find all your results. Okay. Now, okay, this is another blog, and this is another blog for the same. Okay. If you go through them, you will understand that this is one of the most important thing, that your input tag need to have name parameters. If you don't have them, your form won't return anything. So let's see it in action. So here I'll say slash. So go to the /route. Here in /route, I'll specify my methods, and these methods will be, so the method can be get or post. So get is when you're requesting something from the server, and post is when you're sending some data to the server. Okay. So when you're posting something, that means you are sending it to someone else. When you get a post from someone, that means you are receiving it. So when you are requesting some data from the server, it will directly send you the response, and you have received the response if you get status code as 200. Post means you are posting some data on the server that is to be saved or for verification or for authentication. Okay. So this is what we can do. I'll I'll say if request, so no, we need request from FastAI, Flask. So I'll say if request dot method is equal to, and then I'll check if it's post. If the method is post, then I can, okay, don't don't have to do this. I'll simply say form data is equal to request dot post or request dot form. This is the place where you get all your data, and then I'll say print form data. So let's see if this is working. So here, first, when we visited this URL, it tried to request form, and then it tried to print the form data. This is what you get: empty, immutable, multi-dict. Okay, this is what you get, and then this is what is executed. So in the front end, you see these meanings. Now if I try to send something, hello, and press enter, or if I press search, you will see that I'm still getting empty dictionary. I'm not getting any data. The reason for this is because your input field doesn't have name tag in it. So we'll have to specify the name, and the name could be, okay, I'm saying it is word. Now if I try to refresh the page, here, okay, so when you request the refresh the page, that is a get request. When you send data, that will be post request. So if I say home and enter, so now if you look here, we have word plus home. So word is basically this name here, and the home value is what we have entered in the search field. Okay, so like this is how you get your forms data. It's very easy. All you have to do is, all your input tag should have name. Okay, now these name values will be used as keys to access the value that was entered there. And then all you have to do is you have to import request, and you will have to say request.form. The form is basically a dictionary. So if you want to get access to something, you just have to say the name. So our name was word. If say it was keyword, so we can simply write keyword. Okay. So if you do this, you will directly get the value that we have entered in the search field. So it's pretty straightforward and simple to connect the backend with the front end. Okay. So I'll just make it very clear. Like I write a clean code. So if request dot method is equal to post, if it's post, that means the user is so when I say the method is post, that means it was triggered after clicking this submit button, because we are saying go to this route and the method should be post. If you just refresh it from here in the browser, then it will be a get method. Then this piece of code won't be executed. Okay, so once we have this data, what we can do is we can simply move it inside here, and our word will be, instead of, okay, we'll print it, also we'll assign it to this, and then I'll say data equal to this, and I'll say render this, and here I'll simply say return render template, and I'll say index.html. So if it's a get method, then this will be directly returned without any data. If it's a post request, then what it will do is extract the word, print it here, and then assign this to word variable. It will go and check its meaning, and then it will send all the data back. Okay. Now these placeholders, let's see. So data is undefined because we are sending a get request, and for get request, data is defined here, right? So okay, so data is defined here, but when you come here, this is not passed, and since it's not passed and you are trying to access it here, data.word, data.pos and other stuff, that is the reason why data is not defined, because it is trying to access these values here. So what we can do is we can, in Jinja templating, so far we have been just displaying Python variable values, but now we'll use some built-in logic which will basically say if data, then show this diff, else don't show this diff. So have one div which is closed here, this is second div, this is third div. Okay, so Okay, so first let's see it in action. So you'll not see nothing, and then when I say ego test and search, you'll see this thing here because now data was passed. So this is how it works. When it starts rendering the template, it will go through it and it will check was data variable passed or not. If it was not passed, then all this HTML element which is present inside if will not be rendered or will not be executed. And in Jinja, you basically specify end and then the keyword to indicate a block element. So if condition, then this all this thing is present inside if has to be denoted by this. If you move this here, that means these elements are all outside if block. Okay, so it also has many other things like you can Jinja also supports for d in data dot items. So this is very Pythonic way of doing something. And to close this block, you can say end and for because it's a for block. And inside of this, you can print anything any number of times. So I can say I want li block, and here I'll simply say print d. We can do this. So let's see. Okay, you'll see that li tag is printed like thrice. We are using for loop. We are iterating over each element of the dictionary, and we are printing the dictionary. Okay, so it Jinja supports a lot of different things, and we'll use if to check if we have a function or not. Okay, so great. I'll quickly sum everything up so that you can collect your thoughts and have a look at it. So we started with a simple function that will simply return index.html, nothing else. Then we learned how we can pass data from Python to the front end. All we have to do is assign, like, first pass that data as argument to render template function, and second thing is create placeholders for them. These are the place where that Python variable or values that are passed from Python will be displayed in your web page. Okay, then we saw how to take input from the front end. All you have to do is create a form, and important thing to note is all your input should have name tag because these values will be used as keys to access whatever was entered. Okay, next is you specify uh, route to what route to ping and with what method. Okay, then here we are saying, like, since we are making a simple web app, that is the reason why I'm not creating separate page that after search it should visit some other page and there it should show the meaning, since it's supposed to be a single web app. So we are doing everything under one route. So how do we segregate it? We are saying if requested the method used was post, then basically take the form and extract word from it. Once we have the word, basically assign it to word and get the meaning and part of speech, and then we already know how to pass it to the front end. Okay, so we'll okay, we can simply remove all this and say word and okay. So this is all the code that you need. This is all the code you need. So imagine you want to take another input, so you can make a copy of it and here just change it to word 2 and come here, access word 2 and assign it to word 2. Simple. Once you have it, you can pass it here, get its meaning and pass it to the front end as usual or as normal. Okay, so you will see we have two inputs. Here I'll pass home, here I'll pass alone, and then I'll say search. So it will give me the meaning for home. And I think we are not printing anything. So word 2 is not displayed, but we can check the value by just saying print word, comma word 2. So this print statement will print the output here in standard output. Okay. So I'll remove these things. I'll remove this from. So is everyone clear with this part?
Yes.
Okay. So two most important thing that you need to understand when working with Flask is how do you take input from the front end and how do you pass data from backend to the front end. Now, passing data from backend to front end is pretty easy. All you have to do is pass your data as arguments, and then you have to here make placeholders for that data. You have to decide places where that data will be displayed or shown. We use double curly braces for that. Okay. Next is not just that, but you can also use some logic. So logical part. So in Jinja, this is rough idea, not a golden rule of thumb, but this is rough idea. If something has double curly braces, that means it is to show it in the front end. If something has a curly brace and an operator, that means it is going to perform some logic or some operation. This won't be shown in the front end. So you won't see this if data in the front end. This is some logic, some operation that will be performed. So for loop, again, it's basically an logic, it's an operation. So hence we'll use curly brace and then percentage. Okay. This is how you decide what to use. If you want to display something, go for double curly braces, and if you want to execute a logic, you have to use curly brace with a percentage symbol. Okay. This is how you send data. How do you get it back? All you have to do is create form. All your input fields should have a name tag, and then you can access all the data inside form. Just access it one by one. If you have 4 inputs, you have to call it over and over again 4 times. So input 1, input 2, input 3, input 4. So you will basically make 4 copies of this thing and just change these 2 values. Okay. So you take input and this is how you like send it back to the front end. Okay. Now Flask, if you are looking at it for the first time, it might look very cryptic and a lot of things might not make sense, and it's completely okay, because whenever you are working, web development in itself is a very big field. You need to know HTML, you need to know CSS, you need to know SAS, you need to know JavaScript, you need to know any backend language, you need to either know Node.js or something else, you need to have understanding of databases, you need to make sure you know HTTP request protocols and all those different things to render a single page. Okay, if you get an error, then you need to have an understanding of all these things to figure out where it's causing the error. So it's a complex topic in itself. Okay, so whenever you're reading web development in any language or in any framework, this is always difficult. Another thing is, whenever you get start with something, it's very important to have a basic understanding of some terms that are used in that domain. For example, here I'm saying this is a route, this is a view, this method will be called, these are request methods, and then this is response, this is request, and like all this render template, then index.html. So all these things, having some basic understanding will help you understand it better. So whenever you look at Flask, Django or another framework, it will take a couple of days of practice before you get used to the terminology that is used, and then only you can make full use of it. Even if you go and read the docs, they'll use these terms that will add a new route, will make will use get method, will use post method, you can check the form. So all these things will start making sense once you spend a couple of days learning the framework. So it's completely normal if you are looking at Flask code for the first time and it's not making any sense. It's completely normal. So yeah, now we have a web app which can search for us. Okay, great. Let's try to move towards the databases part. We are just left with one thing before we take a break. So if you look at this, say hello, and I'll press search. So look at this thing here. It's taking some time to go and search the word. It would be great if we can save these values in a cache so that we can access it quickly. So what I'll do is I'll make a dictionary called cache equal to okay. I'll make a dictionary called cached words, okay? And this will be an empty dictionary. Now, whenever I get a request, what I'll do is first I'll see if that word is present in the dictionary or not. So this is pretty simple. If word in cached words dot keys, if it's present, then all we have to do is pos comma meaning is equal to cached words, and then I'll pass the word. That means basically don't call the get meaning function, take it from our dictionary. Okay, so we'll directly take it. If it's not there, so go in else section, and here once you have requested the meaning, add it to the cache as well. So next time if somebody requests the same word, we can return it immediately. So now I'll say cached words, then I'll say word is equal to, and then I'll create a tuple of pos and meaning. Let's read it again. I'll take the word from the front end. I'll see if it's present in dot keys. If it's present, then I'll directly try to access it from the cached dictionary. If it's not present, I'll go scrape the web, extract the post part of speech and the meaning, and then I'll put it back in the cache. Okay, and then we'll have our data. So imagine if it was retrieved from cache, so if block will be executed and this won't be executed, but you will have post and meaning defined, and word is already defined here, so this won't throw an error. Similarly, if it is not present in cache, then we'll be defining post pos and meaning here, so you won't get an error again. So let's see it in action. So I'll search home for the first time. It will take some time. I'll search home again. You'll see it's immediate. Okay, because we are retrieving it from the cache. Also, we can every time a request is made, we can look at the cache. So I'll say print cached words. So let's hello. I'll print this and let's look at the cache. As you can, okay, this was a new ye. So this was a new word, right? Hello was a new word. So I'll simply paste it here so that we can see it every time we. So I'll say home, and so this was an empty dictionary. Next time if we search home again, you can see this is saved. If I search for hello, you can see home is saved, and hello will also be printed in the next request, because we are printing it before the request, hence we didn't see hello, but now we'll see it. Okay, so a better place for this would be here, so that you can see it every time. Home, it will go and retrieve it. Next time if I search for home, you can see we have home here. If I search for hello, you can see it will go and save hello as well, and it will keep saving all the values, so next time when you access them, it will directly retrieve them. Okay, One problem with this approach is if I close the server and start it again, then if I try to access home, it will go and request the web page. Okay, because all the Python variables, as soon as you stop the script, all the Python variables are destroyed. That means all the values that were saved in your cached dictionary were destroyed, and now there's no trace of them. You'll have to, you'll start with a clean dictionary again. When you run this code again, you'll start with a clean dictionary. And you don't want this to happen. Every time a Facebook server or Google server is restored or restarted from maintenance, they don't want all their web pages to get lost directly. They don't want all their profiles to get deleted. And that is the reason why people make use of persistent storages. A example of persistent storages are either you can use file or you can use databases. These are like two examples of persistent storage. You can use files or you can use database. That means instead of saving all these words in a dictionary, basically save it in a file. But if you have used files before, you might know that you can open the file either in read mode or write mode. That means to check if the value is present in the key or not, you have to check if the value is present or not, you will have to first open the file in read mode and go through it line by line and search for the word until you reach the end of the file. If you don't find the word, then you execute, then this will be false and you will execute this. And here you will have to open the file again in write mode and write this data to the file and then save it. Okay, so you will have to open the file and close the file, and then you will have to open it again in write mode and then close the file again. Now whenever you do IO operation, it's very expensive. Either you are requesting a web page from the network, it will take a lot of time. Either you are reading a file from your RAM or from your storage, it will take a lot of time. So basically opening a file here and closing it again and then opening it here and then closing it again will end up costing you more. It is much easier to directly request the web page instead of maintaining a separate file, because it will take equal amount of time. IO is very expensive, particularly if you are reading something from the network or from a file in your storage or in your hard disk. Okay, so hence we'll discard this approach. So we are only left with databases, and we'll see how we can use databases after a break. Okay, so we'll add a database to this front end application that we have created, and then we'll see, like, we'll get the same app, but it will be mostly using database in the backend to save all the words that we have already searched. Okay, so before we take a break, like, everyone was able to follow along until this point?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
AskApp, how do you read the data from the form? How do you send the data to the front end? Next is how we are caching. We are just maintaining a global dictionary. That's it. Okay. So great. It's 6:11. Let's try to meet back at 6:20, and then it will be another 40 minutes to introduce you to databases, and we'll try to complete the databases module at least. Okay, so let's meet back at 6:20.